Beyond the headlines, the untold suffering caused by economic sanctions. War. Conflict. Suffering. These words often come to mind when we think about the toll of violence and unrest within a nation. But there is another way that countries wage conflict, one that happens quietly, silently, with the stroke of a pen. I'm talking about economic sanctions, and in today's video, I aim to show their true effects and human costs. Welcome to Thoughtful Dialogues, and I think this is a story that needs to be told. So let's dive in. Imagine you live in a country that has just been hit with strict economic sanctions. You wake up one day and overnight, store shelves are bare. Food prices have skyrocketed. Gas is rationed. Bank accounts are frozen. Medical supplies are scarce. Everyday goods, from shampoo to shoes, are suddenly unattainable luxuries. This is the harsh new reality for millions of ordinary citizens when sanctions strike. Their access to basic needs rapidly disappears. It happens in an instant, through no fault of their own. But it's more than just scarce goods. It's children unable to go to school because their parents lost their jobs. It's sick loved ones dying because medicines are restricted. It's livelihoods destroyed, families torn apart, dreams shattered. And those who suffer most? The young, poor, and vulnerable. Not the regime leaders' sanctions aim to coerce. Let me introduce you to someone enduring this suffering. Nyasha is a young mother from Zimbabwe. When wide-ranging sanctions were imposed on Zimbabwe in 2002, Nyasha's life was turned upside down. Food costs tripled. Her husband's factory shut down, leaving him unemployed. This put immense stress on their marriage. And their 8-year-old daughter Rufara's health began declining as medicine became unavailable. The sanctions are meant to harm the government, but it's innocent people like Nyasha's family who suffer. The family can barely make ends meet. They are terrified for their daughter's health. Their dreams for the future have been destroyed. This is no way for anyone to live. Nyasha and Rufara's story is heartbreaking, but far from unique. Sanctions strained Zimbabwe's health system to its breaking point, leaving millions unable to access medicine and healthcare. Childhood malnutrition skyrocketed. Millions were forced into poverty. And Zimbabwe is just one example. Over a third of the world's population is currently impacted by Western-led sanctions programs, from Iran to Venezuela to Russia and beyond. While the political aims may vary, the effects on civilians remain remarkably similar. Humanitarian crises, economic collapse, and the dismantling of basic infrastructure. Precisely what has transpired in Zimbabwe. But behind these crises are not statistics, they are human faces. Mothers struggling to feed their babies. Doctors unable to access life-saving equipment. Teachers watching their classrooms empty as families flee abroad. Sanctions are devastating civilian populations and no longer can be considered a lawful tool of statecraft. Yet nations continue justifying sanctions as more humane alternatives to military force. But are they really? Is it more moral to quietly starve and deprive civilians of basic rights? To whisper suffering rather than shout it? Many argue no. That there is a moral imperative to assess sanctions through a human lens, to make visible their effects on real people, and be far more judicious in their use. As citizens, we have power to demand moral leadership from those who act in our names. We must question assumptions, think critically, humanize all people as worthy of dignity. And speak out against policies that bring only more hardship into the world. The story of Nyasha, Rufaro, and millions like them, are reminders of our shared humanity that transcends all borders. Their struggle could easily be our own. It is only by truly seeing and hearing those on the margins that we can build a more just, compassionate and peaceful world for all. If their stories opened your eyes to a new perspective on sanctions, please share this video. Perhaps together we can foster more understanding. Let's move forward with hope, guided by conscience. Thank you for listening.